Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'll be talking about chemical injuries of the cornea and especially the medical and early emergency management of the chemical injuries. So, chemical injury is one of the true ophthalmic emergency, and any form of delay in the primary treatment can lead to devastating sight-threatening complications. So, we have to be very prompt with the management. So, all generally call the chemical injury patients presents with symptoms of pain, photophobia, lacrimation, and diminution of vision because of the involvement of cornea. And all chemical injuries causes ocular surface burn. And severity of the burn depends on various factors, including surface area of the contact, concentration and amount of substance being exposed, time of first intervention, depth of penetration into the tissue, duration of contact of the chemical, and also degree of limbal stem cell injury. We all know that alkali are the more notorious chemicals which penetrate rapidly into the deeper tissue by causing disruption of the cell membrane and necrosis. They causes saponification of the cell membrane and breaks the intercellular bridges as well, which helps them to penetrate rapidly and into the deeper tissue. You can see the photograph showing necrosis of the conjunctival blood vessel in a severe chemical injury, which gives a cooked fish eye appearance, where cornea is a chalky white. Whereas acids causes rapid denaturation of the protein into the corneal stroma, which forms a precipitate layer, which and it will prevent further deeper penetration of the chemical into the tissue. But this is only applicable for mild acids. Highly corrosive acids, strong acids will penetrate very rapidly into the corneas and into the tissue, and it causes even dangerous, more complicated damage than even alkalis. So more than 25,000 chemicals have been identified which can cause injuries to the eyes. And amongst them, common acids are sulfuric acid, which is present in battery acids and industrial cleaners, acetic acid in the form of vinegar, and hydrochloric acid, which is present in many of the household cleaning solutions. Common alkalis are ammonium hydroxide, which is present in fertilizers and farming related chemicals, refrigerants. Another alkali is sodium hydroxide, which is in the form of caustic soda, which is readily available in people when and patients can get exposed to that. Most dangerous one of them is calcium hydroxide or lime, which is present in cement, plaster, or whitewash. So it is important to classify these chemical injuries because that will help for prognosticating the cases and also help in the treatment of further treatment. So there are two classification systems generally followed: Propofol and Dua's classification. In randomized controlled trials, it has been shown that for acute burns, Dua's classification is superior to the Propofol classification in predicting outcome of the severe chemical burns. But in clinical practice, both classification systems are used. So Roperol classification is has four grades. It is based on the limbal ischemia and corneal involvement. And but I will be talking more in detail about the Dua's classification, which has got 6 grades, and it is based on the limbal involvement in the form of clock hours and conjunctival involvement. So grade 1 to 3 have good prognosis, where limbal involvement is less and conjunctival involvement is less. Grade 4 cases where you actually need to be different about the management, which where limbal involvement is 6 to 9 clock hours and conjunctival involvement is more than 50 to 75% of the cases. This cases may require early surgical intervention also. Grade 5 has guarded to poor prognosis, where limbal involvement is 9 to 12 clock hours and conjunctival involvement is 75 to 100%. Grade 6 has very poor prognosis, where there is a total involvement of limbus and conjunctiva. So I will be talking about immediate medical management, early medical management, and early surgical management in this presentation, because that is more important for the long-term outcome. So at the time of presentation, you need to take basic history about the time of injury. Was there any intervention done in the form of eye wash or mechanism of injury? What type of chemical was a patient got exposed to? If the packaging is available, you need to look at the concentration as well. First and foremost, you need to check the pH of the ocular surface, where that standard pH paper can be used by folding it and putting it over the ocular surface and then compared with the standardized colors. Goals of the management is removing the offending agent is most important by doing a vigorous eye wash. Promote the ocular surface healing by controlling inflammation, preventing infection, and controlling intraocular pressure. So immediate management involves copious irrigation of the eye, where every second counts. We can use normal saline or Ringer's lactate or balanced salt solution for that. In extreme emergency cases where nothing is available, tap water can also be used, but there is always a risk of infection with that. So IV set is used, which is connected to the irrigation bottle, and it is kept at a particular height, and then fluid is directed towards the ocular surface. Remember that it should be done under topical anesthesia because patients are in a painful condition. So first you need to remove the pain, then only they will be able to open the eyes and cooperate for the same. Eversion of the upper lid and lower lid is important, and do a copious irrigation through that. Sometimes even double eversion using Descemet retractor is also needed. It is recommended to wash the eye for 20 to 30 minutes, and endpoints will be neutralization of the pH. If you can use eye speculum also, and ask the patient to move in all the gazes and check for deeper fornices, and if any solid material is found there, you can either use the bud to remove it or take a forceps to remove those particles. There has been a clinical evidence that BSS was more preferred as and it was more comfortable to the patients than compared to normal saline. And if available, BSS can be used, and generally BSS is available in ophthalmic setup because it is used for intraocular surgery as well. Remember that in any suspected open globe injury or suspected perforation or a clinically evident perforation, eye wash should be avoided. Another important part of early management is topical steroids. So this is the condition where actually the ocular surface, the epithelium is poor, and still you need to give steroids, because most of the ophthalmologists are reluctant to give steroids when there is an epithelial defect, or we are afraid to have patient getting a secondary infection. But this is the condition where steroids have an utmost important role. It reduces the neutrophil infiltration and prevents the damage by proteolytic enzymes. However, for prolonged use, it also impairs the stromal healing by reducing collagen synthesis and by inhibiting fibroblast migration, and which leads to increased chances of sterile ulcer formation, which can get secondarily infected. So steroid has to be tapered off after 7 to 10 days. Ascorbic acid promotes the synthesis of mature collagen by corneal fibroblasts, and it is recommended to use topical sodium ascorbate 10% every 2 hourly in addition to the systemic dose. Preservative-free antibiotics are recommended for prophylactic use. In cases where you are suspecting microbial keratitis or there is a clinically evident microbial keratitis, fortified antibiotics may also need to be used, but along with that, there is a chance of having ocular surface toxicity, so you have to be watchful for that. Sodium citric acid has been proven to be powerful inhibitor of the neutrophil activity. It decreases the intensity of the inflammatory response by causing chelation of extracellular calcium, which is needed for collagenase. So Orolab has, I have no financial interest. Orolab has made it available in the form of sodium citrate, the sodium citrate 10% with the name of orocitrate, and combined use of citrate with ascorbate has therapeutic advantage. Apart from its antibiotic properties, tetracyclines reduces the effect of matrix metalloproteinase. It inhibits the alpha-1 antitrypsin degradation. So topical and systemic form of doxycycline is also recommended for these cases. For IOP control, oral acetazolamide is preferred. For topical IOP lowering agents should be avoided initially because they have because of the ocular surface toxicity, but in delayed management they can be used. Apart from that, preservative-free tear substitutes, topical cycloplegic agents, bandage contact lens, autologous serum are also part of the medical management. Autologous serum from the peripheral blood serum or umbilical cord serum has been shown to promote the ocular surface healing because they are very rich in growth factors. Moving to for a few case examples, this is the case of acid injury where there was a mild chemical injury in the form of conjunctival and corneal epithelial defect, which you can see with the fluorescent staining under cobalt blue light. So this patient was managed with the topical steroids and topical antibiotics, preservative-free lubricants, cycloplegics, and bandage contact lens, and patient did fine because there was no much of a limbus stem cell deficiency. This is the case of Lyme injury where patient had 3 to 4 plaque hours of the limbal ischemia. So after initial emergency management, patient was started on topical steroids very frequently for 1 hourly and along with antibiotics and lubricants. Patient was also given topical and systemic ascorbate along with systemic tetracycline. And at the later date, patient was followed up closely and it healed because of the rest of the limbus was healthy. But cases like this, where there is a severe chemical injury, there is a diffuse conjunctival and limbal ischemia and corneal edema, which require maybe early surgical intervention when they have poor prognosis. So in early surgical management includes debridement of necrotic tissue because that prevents the healing of the ocular surface. In the cases where there is a symblepharon formation, you need to do repeated symblepharon lysis. Amniotic membrane has an important role in ocular surface inflammation control and promotion of the healing, and Tenon's advancement. So Tenon's advancement is done to reestablish reestablish the limbal circulation, the viable, healthy vascularized renal capsule is advanced up to the limbal area to cover the ischemic area, and which will limit the necrosis of the tissue, aseptic ulceration, and scleral perforation. Amniotic membrane has got multiple growth factors, including transforming growth factor beta and epidermal growth factor, which promotes the epithelialization, and it reduces the scarring by controlling and suppressing the inflammation. So this is the video courtesy by Dr. Nidhi, where early Simplifon release was done. The patient presented with the almost near total epithelial defect and more than 6 to 9 clock hours of limbal ischemia. So amniotic membrane is placed over the ocular surface, following which the amniotic membrane is elevated and fibrin glue is applied. Similarly, the fibrin glue is also applied on the inferior part. Then the amniotic membrane is then ironed out all over the surface. A purse string stay suture is taken with the 10-0 nylon over the peripheral part of the cornea to secure the amniotic membrane and prevent its slippage. And the peripheral part of the amniotic membrane is sutured using 8-0 vicryl here. You can use 10-0 vicryl or 10-0 nylon also for the same. After with the meticulous management and close follow-up, patient did well post-operative. So delayed surgical management is actually the most important part for the final outcome, including there is a lot of research going on with the limbal stem cell transplantation. Dr. Himanshu sir is expert in that, and that is also my area of interest for the same. I will not be talking about that because that is beyond the scope of this instruction course. To conclude, prompt and copious irrigation remains the single most important intervention for emergency management of chemical injuries by any chemical. Classification system should be used to estimate prognosis and guiding the treatment, and we need to educate the patients regarding prevention of this exposure of the chemicals in the workplace and use of safety equipments. Thank you so much.